What is with these plot twists in Go-Go Loser Ranger? I mean, last week had a fun plot twist. I mean, we knew D was coming back because obviously his arm was the fake sword, so it disintegrating meant that his body would be able to recover. And that's still a fantastic plot twist. But in an episode where the Red Keeper, the leader of the Red side, can go and smash who should be the next in line for his position to the point of bloody murder, you would think that would be the most shocking thing in the episode. But if I'm being honest, if I'm being frank, as brutal as that was, probably pretty in line with what we've seen with this show. Still shocking, don't get it twisted. The end result of not knowing which was the real D and which was the fake, because we knew he could make the math. It was established in this episode. And going up against this guy who, honestly, the personality was fantastic. The guy's dripping slime and goo. He's just a weirdo. His personality, like, if you make him look this way to get a sneak attack at him, he throws a temper tantrum, but then he also seems like he's capable of cutting your head off. The idea of when his head gets cut off and he falls down, I'm like, okay, that makes sense. You know, obviously, if we're looking at this guy, from what we understand with his righteousness of wanting to fix the Keepers, he wouldn't want to stab his own in the back, right? He would want to fix it rather than killing him, right? That's just not his character. The yellow girl, she would probably do the opposite. She would slit throats without much struggle. But the reveal that our boy D was actually the one up top, and this man, if you needed any reason to think he's him, willingly cut his hand off and was able to pull that off. I knew they were doing a back and forth of who's the real one, but once he fell down, I was like, oh, that's D. No, it wasn't. Brilliant. Full live reaction over on my Patreon. If you want to see my full and cut thoughts to this or any of these wonderful Go-Go Loser Ranger episodes, it's over there if you're interested. I mean, this show is cranking up the heat. It's just so good at, like, world building, characterization. I said it pretty much since they started to make this guy a little more relevant, because when we got introduced, we had this psycho yandere looking character who felt like she was Makima from Chainsaw Man, and this kind of like goody two-shoes. I don't really even know what my initial impression was, just that like, oh, I don't need to focus on this guy. Clearly D in his story is way more interesting, and a psycho bitch who's probably going to use and abuse us is just, you know, going to be entertainment gold. And when he started being more relevant, I was like, okay, like, is this guy really gonna be needed? Not only did he save our ass, it's the fact that his connection, and I think this is interesting, the way they did the flashback with his dad. And if you watched after the credits last week, there was a scene where someone of the same species of D was killing Keepers, right? And we didn't know who that was. We get confirmed in this episode that it's someone declaring themselves God, and doesn't like the Keepers seemingly, and also doesn't seemingly like, well, humans. I have a feeling it's one of the captains who wasn't killed and is like carrying on the mission secretly, given by the fact that he brutally killed the church, but that's just my theory anyway. But the idea that we have this guy who's like, looks at the dad, his dad is like this noble righteousness and like, this is morals, this is my moral compass. And the idea of like the whole cat scene, it's hard to look at. I hate animal deaths, whether they're fake, real. It just, I don't, you can show me 1,000 dead bodies of anime humans and I'm like, yeah, that's sad. But if you show me a dead kitten, I'm like, so is it raining in here? I don't know. That's just how I am. And the idea of like leaving that cat behind, and then over the course of the backstory, eventually seeing the cat dead and how like he's like, no, dad's always right, and then just seeing the brutality. It was like, what I like about the violence in this show is that it is intense without going edgy. If you look at last week when our boy beat in that clown's face, it was initially pretty like, holy, and then they don't really show more after that. They just can tell it's dead. Look at Red Keeper, him going back to his sushi after dripping in blood. There's images that are like, damn, I thought I was in a Higurashi scene seeing the blood splatter everywhere. But it's like the initial impacts are gruesome, and then the rest is just like almost the aftermath of a natural destruction occurrence. Like, look at the parents like laying in rubble. Like, it's hard to look at, but it's not like over the top to the point that you're like, oh, they're just trying to make it feel edgy. It's like, no, I would be crushed seeing that. And just everything about the gore in this show is just handled so flawlessly, in my opinion. But the best part is the unexpectedness of watching someone who wants to get back into like, I'm going I'm gonna carry on this mission, you know, I'm no longer gonna be a rat in a cage, I'm gonna do this. You have one girl who seemingly would be next in line for Yellowkeeper's position, wanting to tear it all down. Insert this boy who wants to fix it. And who knows what's gonna happen? I mean, we got one wants world domination, one wants to tear it down, and one wants to fix it. Where these three go, only God knows in this context, and God in this context is a freaking psychopath who's just burning it all down. This was great. It truly feels like this show is just finding its momentum. Not that episode 1 didn't have momentum, it was fantastic. It was such an oddball idea, but it just worked. And every episode after, you feel more structure, more thought, and this is just well written. It's well produced. I mean, anyone who saw that recent, I think it's from the most recent episode of Misfit of Demon King Academy, that is some of the worst CGI I've seen in anime in a hot minute. And then there's this show that has CGI constantly. The keepers themselves are constantly CG, and it's blended in flawlessly, like it's a night and day difference. And this show's well produced, it can be funny, it can be intense, and the plot twists are so fun because, like, the plot twist of Dee being alive isn't shocking because we knew that at the end of last week's episode, but it's the way they handle all these executions of everything, or the unexpected, they're murdering their own, which I guess makes sense when you're trying to take his power away, and, you know, he's saying, I made a mistake, but I'm still top dog, no one can take it from me, and he kind of did prove that. Just everything about this was so good, and the ending, I really thought it was our boy on the ground, and obviously they were just making it work out. Nope. Cut off his hand. Metal as hell. I think the thing I'm most excited about, to be honest though, is the three of them reuniting, because the last time all three of them were in one location, or at least knew they were all in the same location, it was very different to where everything's currently standing. So I'm interested, because especially if you look at the poster, it does feel like they closely all work together, so time will tell. But the three of them are all fantastic leads, and I'm glad they're seemingly main characters, or at the very least main supporting characters. Like, this show has just been an absolute treat, an absolute gem to watch. The biggest surprise for me is how popular it actually has managed to be despite being on a Disney/Hulu streaming platform, because, you know, stuff like an Undead Unluck or, you know, Heavenly Delusion, a lot of those shows get slept on because people just don't watch it over there. So I'm surprised that this one's managed. I guess maybe just because it's so creative, but even then, there's a lot of creative stuff that Disney and Hulu get that don't pop off. So I don't know what's in the water that allowed this one to properly succeed, but I thank you for drugging up the water, because this show deserves viewership, it deserves hype, and I think for many of us, this was one that we went in thinking it might be fun and have been surprised by how much of a masterpiece it's turning into. Let me know what you thought of this week's episode and the constant twists and turns down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around, of course, ring that bell. Like I mentioned, we got those full live reactions over on my Patreon, and hey, while you're over there, I'll also give you a video shout out. So today we got Ham of Rage, Tran Nugan, Devin Mitchell, Tony X, Daniel Darby, Spectra, and Tech Knight. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care and have a good one.